She cleaned our floors for 12 years. Then she picked up a marker and saved our company $100 million. 37 engineers failed for 11 months. A janitor solved it in 30 seconds. But when our CEO found out, he fell to his knees. I caught her writing on a whiteboard. She was not supposed to know how, and the look on her face was not pride, it was fear. What our CEO did next shocked everyone. But what she said after that, no one saw coming. My name is Emma, and if you are listening this, I need you to understand something right from the start. The story I am about to tell you is not a fairy tale. It is not a lesson they teach in business school. It is the truth. The raw, real, beautiful truth about the day I watched a quiet woman in a gray uniform solve a problem that had made 36 of the smartest men in the world want to give up and go home. And I was the one who told the CEO what she had done. What he did next did not just shock the company, it broke all of us. Then it put us back together in a way none of us ever expected. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Emma, and 3 years ago, I was a junior data analyst at a company called Apex Dynamics. Apex was a giant. We built the brains for self-driving cargo ships, the kind that cross oceans without a single sailor on board. If you have ever ordered something from another country and it arrived at your door in 3 days instead of 3 weeks, there is a good chance our software guided that ship through storms and waves. We were the quiet power behind global trade. Our CEO was a man named Harrison Klein. He was 52 years old, with silver hair and eyes that felt like they could see right through you. People feared him. People respected him. He had built Apex from nothing, and everyone knew it. He rarely smiled. He never yelled. But when he went quiet, that was when you knew something was wrong. And on the day my story begins, Harrison Klein had been quiet for 3 whole weeks. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were the days our head of security, a grumpy former soldier named Derek, brought donuts for everyone. I was sitting at my desk in the big open room where all the junior analysts worked. I was staring at a line of code that would not work, and I was frustrated. But then I heard whispers. The big problem. I had heard about it for months. Apex had a client, a huge shipping company named Blue Horizon. They had paid us $80 million to build a new navigation brain for their ships. This brain had to predict ocean currents, avoid icebergs, reroute around pirates, and save fuel. It was a $100 million project. 98% of it was perfect. But the last 2% was a monster. Here is what happened. The system worked fine in calm weather. But the moment something unexpected happened, like a sudden storm or a giant wave, the navigation brain would freeze. It would stop working. It would just sit there, doing nothing. And a $20 billion ship full of containers would be stuck in the water with no brain to guide it. The smart people called this a data deadlock. The rest of us called it a nightmare. I was not on the main team working on this problem. I was too new. The main team had 37 engineers, and they were led by a genius named Dr. Eris Thorne. Eris had a PhD from a famous university, and he was very, very smart. But he was also very, very tired. He and his team had been trying to fix this bug for 11 months. 11 months. They had tried everything. They rewrote the memory. They changed the priorities. They even brought in an expert from Google who charged $10,000 for just 1 hour. Nothing worked. The deadline was 6 weeks away. If we failed, we would not just lose $100 million. We would lose Blue Horizon as a customer. We would lose our good name. People would say Apex ships were not safe. Harrison Klein had not spoken to anyone in weeks. That was the scariest part. When Harrison went quiet, it meant he was either going to fire everyone or shut the whole place down. So on this Tuesday, the whispers were louder than ever. I heard someone say Eris had not slept in 3 days. Someone else said he had erased his whiteboard in anger and then just stood there, staring at the empty white space for an hour. The feeling in the building was like a funeral, heavy, sad. Everyone was walking slowly, talking softly. Around 11 in the morning, I needed coffee. Our break room was on the 3rd floor. It was a big room with glass walls and a view of the parking lot. I walked in, and I saw a woman I had seen hundreds of times but never really looked at. Her name was Elena. That is what it said on the badge hanging from her collar. Elena was a janitor. She was 57 years old. She was from El Salvador, a small country in Central America. She had worked at Apex for 12 years. Every night from 6 to 10, she cleaned our offices. She emptied our trash cans. She wiped our whiteboards. She vacuumed the carpets. She was small, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her hands were always red from the cleaning chemicals she used. She never spoke unless someone spoke to her first. She never looked anyone in the eye for more than 1 second. We treated her like she was not there. I am ashamed to say that now, but it is true. We walked past her every day. We said nothing. We saw nothing. But that day, something was different. Elena was not cleaning. She was standing in front of the break room whiteboard. And on that whiteboard, someone from the main team had written the deadlock problem. It was a mess of numbers, letters, and symbols. It looked like a foreign language to most people. The heart of the monster. The unsolvable $100 million problem. Elena was holding a dry erase marker, and she was writing. I froze in the doorway. My coffee cup was halfway to the machine. I could not move. I watched her hand. It was moving fast, but not like someone guessing. It was moving like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. She was changing things. She was adding new numbers. She was crossing out old ones, and she was doing it in seconds. Just a few seconds. I am not dumb. I graduated near the top of my class. But what Elena wrote on that board was so simple and so smart that my brain felt like it was turning upside down. The deadlock did not need more power. It did not need new machines. It needed a tiny pause, a tiny moment of silence every time the system faced something unexpected. Just a few thousandths of a second of waiting. That was all. Elena had written it as 3 lines, 3 small lines of code. She stepped back. She put the cap on the marker. Then she saw me standing there. Her eyes got big. For just a moment, I saw fear in her face. Real fear. Then she looked down at the floor. She said very quietly, "I am sorry, I will clean it." And she reached for the eraser. I said, "No, do not touch it." She froze. I walked closer. My heart was beating so fast I could feel it in my throat. My voice was shaking when I said, "Elena, did you just solve the deadlock?" She did not answer. She just held the eraser tighter. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the board. Then I did something I probably should not have done. I ran out of the break room. I ran down the hallway. I ran into the elevator and pressed the button for the 47th floor, the executive floor. Harrison Klein's office. His assistant was a woman named Carol. She was very nice but very protective of the boss. She tried to stop me. "Emma, he is in a meeting with Eris. You cannot go in there." I held up my phone. "Tell him I have the solution to the deadlock." Carol's face turned white. She picked up her phone and whispered something. Then she looked at me. "Go in." I walked into the office. It was huge. The whole wall was windows. You could see the whole city. Harrison sat behind a big wooden desk. Across from him sat Eris Thorne. Eris looked like a man who had been hit by a truck. His eyes were red. His tie was loose. His shirt had coffee stains. Harrison looked at me with those cold gray eyes. "Emma, this better be good." I handed him my phone. He looked at the picture. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then his face changed, just a little. A small movement near his eye. He handed the phone to Eris. Eris stared at the picture. Then he stared harder. Then he pulled out his own phone and typed something. His mouth fell open. He said, This is beautiful. No one has ever done it this way. Where did you get this?" I took a deep breath. "Eris, I did not write it." "Elena wrote it." "Elena who?" he asked. "The janitor," I said. The room went completely silent. I could hear the air conditioning. I could hear my own heartbeat. Harrison leaned back in his chair. "The janitor cleaned the whiteboard and wrote a solution?" "No," I said. "She picked up a marker and solved it, from the beginning, in maybe 30 seconds. Eris laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. It was a broken laugh. He said, "That is impossible. This problem needs deep knowledge. She would need a PhD in computer science from a top school." "I do," said a quiet voice from the doorway. We all turned. Elena was standing there. She was still wearing her gray janitor's uniform. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were not looking at the floor anymore. They were clear, and they were full of a pain so old and so deep that my eyes started to water just looking at her. Harrison stood up. "I am sorry, who are you?" "My name is Elena Vasquez," she said, "and I have a PhD in computer science from Stanford University. I graduated in 1995. The room spun. I had to put my hand on the wall to stay standing. Eris dropped his phone. Harrison Klein, the man who never showed surprise, sat back down like his legs had given out. Elena walked into the room. She did not look like a janitor anymore. She walked like someone who had once been important, someone who had once been respected. She stopped in front of Harrison's desk and said, "I am also the person who wrote the original navigation brain for Apex's first self-driving ship. 20 years ago, the code you are still using today." Harrison's face went white. "That code was written by a man named Dr. Jonathan Reed." "Jonathan Reed was my husband," Elena said. Her voice was quiet but strong. "He died of a brain aneurysm in 2003. He wrote the first part of the code, yes, but he did not finish it. I did. He put my name on it as a co-author, but no tech company in 2003 would hire a Latina woman for a top engineering job. So we used only his name. After he died, I tried to come forward. I tried to tell the truth. But the company that owned Apex at the time told me that if I said anything, they would sue me. They would take my house. They would take everything I had. I was a widow with a 6-year-old daughter. I had no money for lawyers, so I kept my mouth shut." Her voice started to break. "When Apex grew and moved to this building, I applied for the only job I could get without anyone asking for references. Janitor, I have been cleaning your offices for 12 years. Every night I read your code. I fix your bugs. I do it silently. I leave notes in the margins. I change small things. No one ever notices. No one ever looks." She turned to Eris. "Your deadlock problem. I solved it 3 years ago. I wrote the solution on a napkin and put it under your keyboard. You threw it away." Eris looked sick. "The napkin with the scribbles. I thought it was an old food stain." Elena closed her eyes. Tears came out from under her lids. "I have watched this company struggle for 10 years. I have watched brilliant people burn out. I have cleaned vomit off your bathroom floors after you worked all night. And I have said nothing, because I was scared. Scared of being called a liar. Scared of being sent back to my country. Scared of losing the health insurance that pays for my daughter's asthma medicine. I am not a hero. I am a coward who could not speak up. But today, I saw Emma watching me. And I thought if I erase this one more time, I will die inside." Her voice broke completely. "So I did not erase it." There was a long, long silence. Then Harrison Klein stood up. He walked around his desk, and he knelt. He knelt on the floor in front of Elena, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, on his knees in front of a janitor. He said, "Elena, tell me everything, please, from the start. Do not leave anything out." So she did. She told us about growing up in San Salvador, learning to code on a computer her father smuggled into the country, about getting a scholarship to Stanford, about meeting Jonathan, a kind, awkward man who saw her as his equal, about staying up all night writing code together, laughing until they cried, about his death, about the lawyers, about the slow, painful loss of herself, about cleaning the offices of people half her age who had no idea she had once taught their professors. By the time she finished, Carol was crying in the doorway. Eris had his head in his hands. I was gripping my phone so hard my fingers hurt. Harrison stood up. His eyes were wet. I had never seen that man cry in 3 years. "Elena," he said, his voice rough, "you have been paid janitor's wages for 12 years. You have been denied credit for work that is worth more than everything in this building combined. I cannot undo that, but I can start. Today. Right now." He picked up his phone and made a call. He called the head lawyer. "Maria, I need you to write a full document giving Dr. Elena Vasquez ownership of the original navigation code. Backdate it to 2003. Give her full royalties. Also, write a check for $10 million for back pay and damages. And find her daughter the best asthma doctor in the country. I do not care what it costs." Elena shook her head. "Mr. Klein, I did not come here for money." "I know," he said. "That is why I am giving it to you." Then he turned to us. "I am calling a meeting for everyone in the main hall in 30 minutes. Everyone. No excuses." The next 30 minutes were chaos. Word spread like fire. People whispered. People shouted. Some people cried. Some did not believe it. Some were ashamed. I went with Elena to the break room. We sat together. She drank a cup of cold coffee. Her hands were still shaking. I held one of her hands. It felt like holding a small bird, fragile but full of life. "Why today?" I asked her. "Why did you finally stop?" She looked at me. "Because you looked at me like I was a person, Emma, not a ghost. No one has looked at me like that in a very long time. I did not know what to say, so I just sat there, holding her hand, until it was time to go to the meeting. The main hall on the first floor holds 800 people. It was completely full. Every engineer, every executive, every receptionist, every security guard. Harrison stood on the stage alone. He did not use slides. He did not use notes. He just talked. He told the whole story. He did not hide anything. He did not make excuses. He said, "A woman named Dr. Elena Vasquez has been working in this building for 12 years. She has mopped our floors. She has emptied our trash. And she is smarter than everyone in this room, including me. What we did to her is not a mistake. It is a sin. And I am not going to ask for your forgiveness because we do not deserve it. Instead, I am going to ask you to watch. Watch what I do next. Because if I do not change, I am nothing. And if this company does not change, it deserves to fall apart." Then he called Elena to the stage. She walked up the steps slowly. The room was dead silent. When she reached the microphone, she looked out at 800 faces. Some of them she had worked next to for years. Some of them had ignored her. Some had been rude. She said, "My name is Elena. For 12 years, you have called me maid or cleaning lady or hey you. Today, I want you to call me Dr. Vasquez, not because I am angry, but because I forgot who I was for so long. And I am done forgetting." Her voice cracked. "I forgive you, all of you, not because what happened was okay, but because holding on to anger has made my back hurt more than mopping ever did." Half the room started crying. I was one of them. Harrison walked over to her. In front of everyone, he handed her a check. He held it up to the camera that was showing the meeting to the whole company, $10 million. Then he said, "Dr. Vasquez, would you do me the honor of becoming the chief software architect of Apex Dynamics?" Elena looked at him for a long time. Then she smiled. It was the first time I had ever seen her smile. It was beautiful. "No," she said. The room gasped. She continued, "I will become chief software architect on one condition. You create a scholarship program for girls from Central America to study computer science in the United States. Full ride, paid by Apex, for 100 girls every year." Harrison did not wait even 1 second. "Done," Elena nodded. "Then yes, I accept." That was 3 years ago. Today, Elena is not a janitor. She leads a team of 400 engineers. She is famous in the tech world. She has given speeches. She met the president. Her daughter is studying engineering at Stanford on a full scholarship. And me, I am her senior assistant. I make sure no one ever looks past her again. But the moment I will never forget happened after the meeting, after the crowds left, after the cameras turned off. Harrison Klein walked back to his office. I followed him because I had left my bag there. His door was open. He was standing at the window, looking out at the city, and he was crying, not quiet tears. He was sobbing. His whole body was shaking. I said, "Mr. Klein, are you okay?" He turned around. His face was red. His eyes were swollen. He said, "Emma, do you know what I was doing 12 years ago? I was in a beach house in California, drinking champagne with investors, celebrating a deal. I was a millionaire. I was a king. And Elena was in this building, scrubbing toilets and hiding her PhD because she was afraid. I walked past her 1,000 times. I never said hello. I never asked her name." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "I am not a good man, Emma. I am a man who got lucky. And today, I realized that luck is not the same as being good." He sat down behind his desk and pulled out a framed photo. It was of his mother, a woman who had cleaned offices her whole life. "My mom was a janitor too," he whispered. "She died when I was 22. I never told anyone. I was ashamed. I built this whole company to prove I was not her son. And today, I met a woman who is exactly like her. Brilliant, kind, invisible." He looked at me. "I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure no one is invisible in my company again. That is what I am going to do next." And he did. He changed every rule. He raised janitorial wages to over $100,000 a year. He made it a rule that every executive must work 1 shift a month cleaning the offices. He said if you cannot look the person mopping your floor in the eye, you have no business leading anyone. People thought he was crazy. Some executives quit, but the ones who stayed, they became better. The whole company became better. Our profits went up, our workers stopped leaving. And the deadlock problem, Elena fixed it in 1 day. The new navigation brain is now the safest in the world. So that is my story. My name is Emma. I am nobody special. I just happened to walk into a break room at the right time. But I learned something that day that I will never forget. The person who cleans your office might be holding the answer to your biggest problem. The person you ignore might be a genius. The person you treat like air might have already saved your life, and you never even knew it. Do not wait until they pick up a marker. Ask their name today. Look them in the eye. Because here is the thing about invisible people. They see everything. And one day, they might decide to stop being invisible. And when that day comes, you better be ready to kneel. Not because they are powerful, but because they were always worthy. And you are the one who could not see.